As we prepare for the offering, I'd like to draw your attention to those yellow cards in the back of the pews in front of you. If you find yourself in a situation that could use some care from one of our lay pastoral ministers, please fill out a card and place it in the offering plate as it passes. As for the offering itself, you know that each month we are pleased to be able to partner with organizations whose values dovetail with our own. And this month, we've been sharing the collection plate with the League of Women Voters of the Pikes Peak region. They're a nonpartisan, 100% volunteer-led organization supporting voter education, engagement, and equity. Can I say that word anymore? Of voting rights in our community. Work is done at the local, state, and national level to promote civic engagement through public forums and voter registration. The League advocates on policy issues by taking positions on open space, water quality, healthcare, and other topics. All Souls will donate our plate sharing funds to support this work, and our sponsor in this effort is our UU the Vote team. If you wish to make an online donation, be sure to select Share the Plate from the drop-down menu. And if you're texting, please indicate the dollar amount plus share. If your collection plate donation is a pledge payment, just write pledge on the donation envelope or the memo line of your check, and we'll apply your donation toward your pledge instead of the share. The offering will now be gratefully received, and thank you in advance for your generosity. It's become somewhat of a truism that we are social beings. We do need each other for all manner of experiences necessary for our psychological growth. What's not as often recognized is that we all need different amounts of that social contact in order to truly be who we are. As therapists, and I know there are many therapists in the room, we're trained to maintain a professional neutrality of sorts. Different people, of course, interpret and convey this in different ways. Some try to maintain that whole blank slate thing that Freud had advocated for, while others just kind of decline to social media friend requests. But wherever a given therapist is along that continuum, it can sometimes feel difficult and awkward to be an authentic person. But at the same time, therapists are encouraged to develop a strong and genuine relationship with each client. Relationship, after all, is the wind upon which therapy sails. Okay, that was kind of cheesy, but you get the picture. Being a therapist in the current political climate has introduced some significant challenges for me, and I'm guessing for others. Thank you. It's sometimes been quite activating and even paralyzing to hear others spew those vile messages. There have been times when I've been so filled with disbelief and anger that I have not been able to respond in any kind of therapeutic way. Believe it or not, though, getting past that volume, those reactionary talking points, and those delusional beliefs in false information often reveals some tender and beautiful humanity. Take, for example, the woman who repeatedly encouraged me to read books by Tulsi Gabbard and others in this administration whose names I can't say without retching. It turned out that she really wanted to preserve the experience of life that she'd known throughout hers, and that she found the alternative quite threatening. This all led to exploring aspects of her own mortality, existential concerns that she'd been sidestepping for years. And that topic of Tulsi has not come up again. Or the man who, having been abused as a child himself, channeled his own rage and quest for justice into supporting MAGA until he started to realize the connections and the hypocrisy. Or the veteran who had been reminded of, quote, things I saw in Syria, quote, unquote, during the riots of 2020, then started to see the more recent occurrences in a much more sinister light. Now, that doesn't happen with everyone, of course, and that's okay. Who was it that said we don't need to flip every pancake? This process has helped me to clarify my own values in ways that I hadn't been able to do before. Values such as fairness and justice, of course, and values such as diversity, equity, and inclusion. But also, surprisingly, values of love and humanity, and that value on relationship. A therapist friend talks about how we build these relationship credits with our clients, and then we cash in on them to gently confront others, to nudge them into contemplation. I can only hope that I'm cashing in on enough relationship points to facilitate authentic change.
I programmed that song this morning knowing that sometimes we have to make it simple for us to understand. So many of you know me as the music director here, so it's an honor to be at the pulpit this morning with you. There is a phrase I love, one that speaks to the essence of community, the spirit of reciprocity and the power of presence. That phrase is a mutual appreciation society. It conjures an image of people gathered together in deep recognition of one another's worth, seeing each other fully, and giving freely of encouragement and support. It is not about flattery or surface-level admiration, but about a kind of covenantal relationship in which we show up for one another in real, tangible ways. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. This is not a passive belief, but an active commitment. It asks us not only to respect others, but to engage with them in a way that fosters mutual uplift. But how do we do this? How do we enter into relationships that are not just about giving or just about receiving, but about a sacred exchange? In the natural world, reciprocity is the foundation of life. Trees give oxygen, and we in turn give carbon dioxide. Bees pollinate flowers, and flowers provide nectar. There is an intricate balance at play, a give and take that sustains existence. If we look closely, we can see that the same principle applies to our human relationships. When we show up as our most authentic selves, we give others permission to do the exact same. Think about a time when someone's vulnerability, their honesty, or their joy inspired you. Maybe it was a friend who spoke their truth, a leader who led with humility, or a child who reminded you how to play. Authenticity invites authenticity. It builds trust, fosters deep connection, and creates a space where mutual appreciation can flourish. But authenticity is not always easy. We live in a world that often pressures us to conform, to shrink ourselves, or to fit into molds that were never made for us. It can feel risky to bring our full selves into a space. And yet, the act of doing so, the act of choosing to be seen, is not only a gift to ourselves, but to those around us. In Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love, it reminds us that we are all born in love, but as we grow, the the world teaches us fear. We begin our lives knowing our inherent worth, but over time, society tells us to doubt ourselves, to believe that we are not enough, that we must earn love, that we must fit into a certain expectation to be accepted. This fear-based thinking keeps us disconnected from our true selves and from one another. But when we reclaim our authenticity, when we return to love instead of fear, we discover our wholeness. We also create a space for others to do the same. Right now, we are seeing a lot of hate in our world, especially in our country. I am a firm believer that all this hatred is rooted in fear. And I believe that this fear comes from people who do not know their authentic selves. People who have been engulfed by a world that tells them who they should be, that they have lost sight of who they truly are. When we do not know ourselves, it is so easy to be afraid of those who live in their truth. It is easy to react to difference with anger rather than curiosity, with rejection rather than appreciation. But I believe that the antidote to this fear, the path forward, is authenticity. The more we live in our own truth, the more we give others the courage to do the same. So how do we step into this kind of reciprocal relationship? How do we move from obligation or expectation into a true mutual appreciation society? First, we have to practice deep listening. Listening not just to respond, but to truly understand. This allows us to honor the experience of others. It tells someone, you matter, your story is worthy, and your voice belongs here. Second, we celebrate each other. Gratitude is a radical practice. When we name and uplift the gifts we see in one another, we strengthen the bonds of community. A simple thank you, a word of encouragement, or an acknowledgement of someone's efforts can transform the energy of any space. Third, we offer and we receive support with grace. I need to hear that. Sometimes we are in a position to give, and sometimes we need to receive. Mutual appreciation means recognizing that both are acts of love. I'm going to say that again. Mutual appreciation means recognizing that both are acts of love. It means allowing others to help us when we need it, just as we would extend help to them. And fourth, we show up as we are. Being authentic means bringing our whole selves, our strengths, our struggles, our questions, our messiness, our joys, our sorrows, our hopes. It means trusting that we are enough for who we are. There are moments in life that redefine you. One of those moments came when I was diagnosed with HIV. I remembered feeling a deep, crushing loneliness, like the weight of that truth would isolate me forever. Shame and fear tried to convince me that I was unworthy of love, of joy, of a future that wasn't defined by my diagnosis. At the time, I was also struggling with addiction. It had started as an escape, something that numbed the pain, quieted the fears, and helped me avoid the parts of my life I wasn't ready to face. But addiction is never just about the substances. It's about the stories we tell ourselves that we're not enough, that we have to be someone else to be loved, that if we can just numb a little longer, we won't have to deal with the truth. And for a while, I believed those lies. I let them shape me. But then, in the midst of it all, people showed up for me. Friends, mentors, and loved ones surrounded me, not with judgment, but with unwavering presence. They saw me, not as broken, but as whole. They reminded me that I was worthy of love, not in spite of my struggles, but through them. It was in that space of being truly seen that I realized I had a choice. I could let addiction and my diagnosis define me in fear, or I could reclaim my life rooted in love. So I got sober, not because I had to, but because I deserved to. I deserved clarity, health, and a future filled with possibility. Sobriety wasn't easy, and some days it's still not. It meant facing the things I had spent years running from. It meant sitting with discomfort instead of numbing it. It meant relearning how to love myself when I wasn't sure I was worthy of that love. But in the process, I found something more powerful: community. People who had walked this similar path, who knew the struggles and the strengths it took to fight for yourself. People who reminded me day after day that healing is never done in isolation. It happens in relationships, in mutual appreciation, in this simple yet profound act of showing up for one another. That experience taught me that mutual appreciation isn't just about celebrating the joyful moments. It's about standing in the trenches with one another, holding space for each other's pain, and reminding one another that we are never truly alone. In that exchange, healing happens. In that exchange, we are made whole. The writer Bell Hooks once said, rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. This speaks to the heart of mutual appreciation. When we engage in authentic reciprocal relationships, we create the conditions for healing, growth, and belonging. I remember a time when I deeply felt the power of mutual appreciation. One day, a fifth grade student, this was in my first year of teaching, actually my first month of teaching, a fifth grade student asked to speak to me privately after class. With nervousness in their voice, they shared that they were transgendered and weren't sure how to tell their family. In that moment, I realized that my role as an educator wasn't just about making music. It was about creating a space where my students felt safe enough to be their true selves. I listened, I affirmed their identity, and I reminded them that they were seen and valued exactly as they were. That moment was not just about me offering support. It was about mutual trust. That student's courage reminded me of the sacred power of authenticity, of showing up fully and allowing others to do the same. When we cultivate a community of mutual appreciation, we create a space where all are truly seen. We make room for each other's wholeness. We enter into a sacred exchange where love is not something we hoard, but something that moves between us, growing as it is given. So today, I invite you to consider, where in your life can you step more fully into your authenticity? Where can you offer appreciation to someone who may not even realize the impact they've had on you? And how can we, as a congregation, as a community, continue to build this community where mutual appreciation is not just a phase, but a way of being? May we all find the courage to live into this vision, and may we know deeply that in being ourselves, we give others the greatest gift: permission to be fully themselves too. Ashe, and blessed be. Just a quick reminder, even though Reverend Ron is not here, the membership class will still go on in this room at noon. As we depart from this sacred time together, may we carry with us the truth that we are held in a web of reciprocity. May we go forth with open hearts, ready to listen deeply, to honor the gifts in others, and to share our own without fear. May we have the courage to be our fullest, truest selves, trusting that in our authenticity we create space for others to do the same. May we offer kindness freely, receive love with grace, and know that we are never alone on this journey. Go in peace, go in gratitude, go in mutual appreciation, and may love be our constant companion. Now let us go forth in singing.
You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, oh yeah, to see you again. Oh, baby, don't you know about winter, spring, summer, or fall? All you gotta do is call.